The stars looked endless to Daniel. From the window of the research ship Aurora, he watched the galaxy stretch out like a sea of shining lights. Since childhood, Daniel had dreamed of traveling beyond Earth, of touching places no human had ever seen. Now that dream had come true. He was one of the chosen explorers sent to study a newly found planet far away from home. The planet was called Elisera. From space, it looked like a glowing blue-green jewel. Its clouds were silver, its oceans sparkled like crystal, and strange forests covered the land. Scientists believed it was rich with resources, and maybe even intelligent life. Many explorers expected only plants or animals, but Daniel had a quiet hope inside him. He wanted to meet someone who was truly different, someone who could show him that the universe was not empty, but full of friends waiting to be discovered. The Aurora landed on the surface in a quiet valley. The sky was a soft violet color, with 2 small moons hanging low on the horizon. The air was fresh, sweet, almost like flowers carried on the wind. The trees had wide silver leaves that shimmered in the breeze, and glowing insects floated lazily between them like tiny lanterns. Daniel and the team set up camp. Machines scanned the soil, drones flew across the valley, and the scientists began to collect samples. Everyone was busy with work, but Daniel wandered a little farther, curious about the forest beyond. He walked slowly, careful not to disturb the plants. Strange birds with crystal wings flew above him, singing in notes that sounded like music. The ground was soft with moss that glowed faintly under his boots. He felt as if the planet itself was alive and watching. Then, he saw her. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. Among the silver trees stood a figure tall and graceful. Her skin shimmered faintly with a pale glow like moonlight reflected on water. Her eyes were bright, wide and filled with curiosity. Her hair, long and flowing, looked like strands of silver and blue woven together. She was not human, but there was something gentle and familiar in the way she looked at him. Daniel froze. His heart beat faster. This was no animal, no machine. This was someone. The alien girl tilted her head, studying him as if he were just as strange to her. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, but it lit her whole face. "Human," she said softly, her voice musical, almost like a song. Daniel's breath caught. She spoke his language, or maybe his mind simply understood her somehow. "Yes," he whispered, his voice shaking. "I'm human." She stepped closer, not afraid. Her steps were light, graceful, as if the earth welcomed her. "I am Leora," she said. "Daniel," he replied, still amazed. For a moment they only looked at each other, 2 beings from worlds apart, meeting for the first time in history. Daniel expected fear, confusion, maybe even hostility, but none of that came. Instead, he felt a strange warmth in his chest, as if this meeting had been waiting for him all along. Leora studied him carefully. "Your people came from the sky," she said. "We saw your fire ship land." Daniel nodded. "We came to learn. We don't want to harm your world." Her eyes softened as if she was testing his honesty. After a moment, she gave a small nod. "I believe you." They walked together through the forest. Daniel asked her questions about her world, but she only gave gentle answers, sometimes smiling as if she was hiding secrets. She asked him about Earth, and he told her about oceans, cities, and music. She seemed fascinated by the idea of music, by the thought that humans could shape sound into songs that carried feelings. "On Elisera," she said, "our voices connect us, but we do not shape them the way you describe. We do not make songs." Daniel smiled. "Maybe I could sing for you sometime." Her eyes sparkled. "I would like that." As the sky darkened and the moons rose higher, Daniel knew he had to return to camp. The others would worry if he stayed too long, but he also knew he could not leave without saying something. He felt a pull inside him, something he could not explain. "Will I see you again?" he asked. Leora tilted her head again, her smile returning. "If you walk this way tomorrow, I will be here." Daniel felt relief wash over him. Then I'll come. That night, back in camp, he could hardly sleep. His mind replayed every detail, her eyes, her voice, the way she smiled when he spoke of Earth. He had traveled light years from home, yet he had found someone who made him feel less alone than ever before. The next day, and the day after, Daniel returned to the forest. Each time Leora was waiting, they talked for hours. She showed him glowing rivers that sang when touched, flowers that opened only under moonlight, and tall crystal towers that grew naturally like trees. He told her stories of human history, of explorers, of art, of love. Love. That word lingered in Daniel's thoughts more and more. He had never believed he would feel it so far from Earth, and certainly not for someone who was not even human. Yet every moment with Leora deepened the connection between them. She did not see him as a strange outsider. She saw him as a person, someone worth knowing. One evening, as they sat beside a glowing lake, Daniel looked at her and felt his heart ache. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. She was kind, curious, and strong. She made him believe that two worlds could come together, even if no one else thought it possible. Without meaning to, he whispered to himself, "I wish I could marry her." He thought the words were too soft to be heard, but Leora turned her head slowly, her eyes shining in the moonlight. For a long moment she only looked at him. Daniel's face grew warm, and he quickly shook his head. I didn't mean, but..." Before he could finish, Leora smiled. It was a smile unlike any she had shown before, bright, warm, filled with something he had not seen in her until now. She leaned closer, her voice soft as the night wind. "Then you shall." Daniel's breath stopped. He stared at her, wondering if he had imagined it, but her eyes held his, steady and sure. In that moment, under the alien sky, Daniel realized that his whispered wish had been heard, and the answer was not rejection, but hope. The night felt alive around them, as if the whole planet was listening, and Daniel knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning of a story greater than either of them could imagine. The next morning, Daniel woke with his heart still racing from the night before. Leora's words echoed in his mind again and again. "Then you shall." It had been a simple answer, but to him, it meant everything. He had not imagined it. She had truly heard his whisper, and instead of laughter or rejection, she had answered with warmth. The camp was busy that day. Scientists moved between equipment, collecting soil samples, testing the water, and sending data back to Earth. But Daniel's mind was far away. He wanted to see her again, to understand what she had meant by those words. When the sun began to lower and the sky turned shades of violet, he walked back into the forest. His footsteps were light, his chest filled with nervous excitement. Would she be there? Would she speak of what she had said? She was waiting. Under the silver trees, Leora stood near a stream that sparkled with tiny glowing fish. She looked up when she heard him, and her smile returned, gentle and welcoming. "You came," she said. "Of course," Daniel replied. His voice shook slightly, but he tried to steady it. "I said I would." They walked side by side, following the stream as it wound through the forest. For a time they said nothing, but the silence was comfortable, like two friends who needed no words to understand each other. Finally, Daniel gathered his courage. "Last night, when I whispered," he paused, unsure how to continue. Leora tilted her head, her eyes glowing softly in the fading light. "I heard you," she said, "and I answered." Daniel felt his heart leap. "Did you mean it?" Her smile deepened. "In my people's way, words spoken with true feeling carry weight. You wished with your heart. I heard truth in it. Why would I not answer truthfully?" Daniel struggled to find words. On Earth, such a moment would be impossible. How could someone speak so directly, without hesitation, about something so deep? Yet Leora was not human. Her people, he realized, might see honesty as the greatest respect. But I'm human, he said quietly. You're not. Would your people accept such a bond? For the first time, Leora's smile faded just a little. She looked toward the sky, where the twin moons had begun to rise. It is not common, she admitted. My people value harmony within their own kind. They fear what is different, not because it is dangerous, but because it is unknown. They may not understand you as I do. Daniel nodded slowly. That's the same for humans. Many fear what they don't know. They stopped at a small clearing where flowers glowed like stars on the ground. Leora knelt and touched one gently, and it opened, releasing a soft golden light. My people believe that bonds of the heart must be balanced, she said, not only in feeling but in spirit. To them, you are still young, your people only just reaching the stars. They may think your kind is not ready for such bonds. Daniel sat beside her, his eyes on the glowing flower. And what do you think? She turned her gaze toward him, her expression calm but steady. I think your people carry something my people have forgotten. We are old, Daniel. Our civilization has lived in peace for many generations. We no longer struggle. We no longer fight for survival. That has made us calm but also distant. Your kind, though young, has a fire. You hold hope even when the path is dark. That hope is powerful. Her words stirred something inside him. So you don't see me as weak or unworthy? Leora shook her head. No, I see you as different. And sometimes difference is what brings balance. They sat in silence for a while, watching the golden light of the flowers fade and return like breathing. Daniel felt a strange peace wash over him. He realized that this bond they were forming was not only about feelings, but about understanding. Two beings from different worlds, learning to see each other not as strangers but as equals. The days that followed were filled with discovery. Daniel and Leora met each evening, walking deeper into the alien world. She showed him wonders he could never have imagined, glowing rivers that sang when touched, their notes harmonizing with the stars, crystal towers that grew naturally from the earth, resonating like bells when the wind blew through them, giant trees with leaves that could catch moonlight and reflect it like mirrors, making the forest shine as bright as day. In return, Daniel shared stories of Earth. He spoke of oceans, where waves danced endlessly against the shore. He told her about music, showing her recordings on his device and even singing softly so she could hear how human voices carried emotion. The first time he sang, she closed her eyes, her expression softening into wonder. Your voice holds sadness and joy together, she said. We do not shape sound this way. It is beautiful. Her words gave Daniel courage, and he began to sing more often, teaching her simple songs. Sometimes she tried to join, her voice clear but strange, not quite human, yet not less beautiful. Together, their voices blended in ways that made Daniel believe the universe itself was listening. As the bond between them deepened, Daniel found himself forgetting the limits of their worlds. When he looked at Leora, he did not see an alien. He saw a friend, a companion, someone whose heart spoke to his own, yet doubt still lingered. One night, as they watched the moons rise above the lake, Daniel finally asked the question that had weighed on him. Leora, if your people knew about us, what would they say? Her smile faded again, and she looked down at the water. They would not understand, she admitted softly. They would fear that such a bond could break harmony. Some might say it should not be allowed. Daniel's chest tightened. And you? Would you listen to them? She turned to him, her eyes glowing with quiet strength. I listen to my heart, she said simply. And my heart does not fear you. The words struck him deeply. He realized then that her courage was not loud or fierce but steady, unshaken. She was willing to face the unknown for the sake of truth. Daniel felt warmth spread through him. On Earth, we say love is stronger than fear. Maybe your people will see that one day. She tilted her head, thoughtful. Perhaps. But even if they do not, I will remember this bond. The air grew still around them as if the world itself was listening. Daniel wanted to tell her everything he felt, to promise that he would never let her go, no matter the distance. But the words caught in his throat. He knew it was too soon, that their journey was only beginning. Instead, he reached out slowly, hesitantly, and touched her hand. Her skin felt warm, almost like sunlight. She did not pull away. Instead, she turned her hand and gently held his. The simple gesture carried more meaning than words could. It was not just friendship, not just curiosity. It was a promise, quiet, but unbreakable. As they sat together under the twin moons, Daniel realized something profound. Humanity had traveled far into the stars, searching for knowledge, resources, and discovery. But perhaps the greatest discovery was this: that even in the vastness of space, hearts could still find each other. And though he did not speak it aloud, he knew his whispered wish had not been a mistake. The bond between him and Leora was real. It was the beginning of something greater than both of them, something that could change two worlds. The bond between Daniel and Leora grew stronger with every meeting. Each evening, when the sky turned violet and the moons rose above Elisera, they would walk together. Sometimes they talked about their worlds. Sometimes they sat in silence, letting the forest sing around them. Daniel had never felt so connected to anyone before, but nothing on Elisera remained hidden forever. One evening, as they sat near the glowing lake, a sudden light flashed above the trees. It was not the soft glow of insects or the silver of moonlight. It was sharper, brighter, controlled. Daniel turned quickly and saw tall figures stepping into the clearing. Their presence carried authority. Their robes shimmered like crystal, and their eyes glowed with wisdom and judgment. Leora's face grew pale. She stood slowly, lowering her head. "The council," she whispered. Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard of them from her stories. The leaders of Elisera, guardians of tradition and harmony. They rarely left their great city. If they had come here, it was for something important. The tallest of them, an elder with hair like flowing silver threads, stepped forward. His voice was deep, calm, but filled with weight. "Leora of Elisera, we have watched you. We have seen your walks with the human. You know our ways. You know such closeness with an outsider is not permitted." Daniel felt his heart sink. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but he stayed silent, letting Leora answer first. She lifted her head, her voice steady though her hands trembled slightly. "Honored counsel, Daniel is not a danger. He seeks only to learn, to understand. His heart is true. I have felt it." The elder's gaze shifted to Daniel. His eyes seemed to pierce into his very soul. "Human," he said. "Do you believe your kind is ready to share bonds with ours? Your species has only just begun to step into the stars. You are young, impatient, reckless." Daniel swallowed hard. Every instinct told him to lower his head, to remain silent. But something inside him pushed back. If he stayed quiet now, Leora would face judgment alone. He straightened his back and met the elder's gaze. "Maybe we are young," he said. "Maybe we don't have all the wisdom your people do. But we are not only reckless. We are also brave. We fight for what we love. We keep hope alive even when things seem impossible. That is part of being human, and that is why I am here. Not to take, not to harm, but to share something real with Leora." The council members exchanged quiet glances. Some seemed doubtful, others thoughtful. The elder studied Daniel for a long moment, then turned back to Leora. "You speak of balance," the elder said. "If this bond is to exist, it must be tested. We cannot allow our ways to be broken by a single wish." "What kind of test?" Daniel asked cautiously. The elder raised a hand, and the glowing lake rippled as if answering. Beyond this valley lies the shifting expanse. It is a place where our machines cannot enter, where even our strongest minds are tested. It changes its form, playing with fear, trust, and spirit. If you, a human, can walk through the expanse and return, your bond will be recognized. Daniel felt a chill. A test? Against illusions and dangers he could not understand. Yet, when he looked at Leora, he saw fear in her eyes, not for herself, but for him. "You do not have to do this," she whispered. But Daniel shook his head. "If this is the only way they will see us as true, then I will." The elder's expression did not change, but his tone carried finality. At dawn, the trial begins. That night, Daniel could not sleep. He sat near the campfire, staring into the flames. The other human researchers had no idea what had happened in the forest. He could not explain it to them. They would not believe. This trial was his burden alone. Leora appeared quietly from the trees. She sat beside him, her silver-blue hair catching the firelight. "You should not risk this," she said softly. "The shifting expanse is not like your forests on Earth. It will show you things that may break your spirit." Daniel looked at her. "Have you ever been there?" She nodded slowly. "Once. It showed me my deepest doubts. I barely found my way out." He reached for her hand, and she let him hold it. "Then tell me how you survived." Her eyes glistened. "I remembered who I was. I remembered that fear does not define truth. But Daniel, you are human. The expanse will know that. It may test you harder than it tested me." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "Then I'll remember something too. I'll remember you." Her eyes widened slightly, then softened into a smile. "Then maybe you will find the path." When dawn came, the council and several witnesses gathered at the edge of the valley. The forest gave way to a vast plain that shimmered strangely in the morning light. The ground shifted like water, and the air above it seemed to ripple as if it were alive. Daniel stood at the edge, his heart pounding. Leora was beside him, her face pale but resolute. The elder spoke. "Step into the expanse, human. If you return before the moon's rise, your bond will be acknowledged." Daniel took a deep breath. He turned to Leora one last time. She whispered, "Remember what you carry inside." Then he stepped forward. The moment his foot touched the ground of the expanse, the world around him twisted. The forest vanished. The council disappeared. Even Leora's face was gone. Daniel stood in darkness. Then, slowly, shapes began to form. He saw Earth, his home, cities burning, oceans rising, people shouting in fear. He saw failure, humanity, crumbling under its own mistakes. A voice whispered in his ear, "This is what your people are. Do you still think yourself worthy?" Daniel clenched his fists. "Yes, we make mistakes, but we also rise. We learn. We change. That is what makes us strong." The vision shifted. He saw himself standing alone. Leora, walking away, her eyes cold. "She cannot love you," the voice hissed. "You are not like her. You are less." Daniel's chest tightened, but he forced himself to speak. "She chose to walk with me. She saw my heart. That is enough." The illusions twisted again. He found himself at the edge of a cliff, storms raging around him, shadows pulling at his feet. He stumbled, fear gripping him. Then, through the storm, he heard something faint, a voice, gentle and steady. "Remember what you carry inside." Leora's words. Daniel closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. He focused on the memory of her smile, her hand in his, her voice when she listened to his songs. Slowly, the storm began to fade. The shadows loosened their grip. The ground beneath him grew solid. When he opened his eyes, he was standing at the far edge of the expanse. The valley lay before him once more. He had made it through. The council waited in silence as Daniel stepped back into the valley. His clothes were torn, his face pale, but his eyes were steady. The elder studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You faced the expanse and returned. Few of our own have done so. You carry strength, human. Strength not only of body but of spirit. Leora rushed to his side, her eyes shining with relief. She grasped his hand tightly. The elder raised his voice so all could hear. Let it be known. The bond between Daniel of Earth and Leora of Elizera is acknowledged. From this day it shall not be hidden. Gasps spread through the gathered witnesses. Some looked uncertain, others curious, but none could deny what they had seen. Daniel looked at Leora, and she smiled through her tears. You did it, she whispered. He shook his head gently. We did it. As the twin moons rose over Elizera, Daniel knew this was more than just a personal victory. It was the first step in proving that humanity, though young, though imperfect, could stand as equals among the stars, and his whispered wish was no longer just a dream. The valley was quiet after the council had spoken. Though the acknowledgement of their bond brought relief, Daniel and Leora both knew the journey was far from over. The expanse had tested Daniel's heart, but Elizera held deeper challenges, ones that could shape the future of their connection even more. The elder of the council had spoken of the next step, a journey to the crystal fields, a place where the planet itself tested those who sought to unite across worlds. The fields were known to shift without warning, changing paths, hiding dangers, and creating illusions that preyed on fear and doubt. Technology, Daniel had been told, would be useless here. Only courage, trust, and understanding could guide a traveler safely. As the twin moons rose in the evening sky, Daniel and Leora stood at the edge of the fields. The terrain stretched endlessly, glittering with jagged crystals that caught the moonlight and scattered it in thousands of directions. The air was thick and heavy, carrying an energy that seemed almost alive. This is it, Leora said softly, her eyes scanning the horizon. The test begins here. You must trust yourself. And me. Daniel nodded, though a shiver ran down his spine. We've come this far. We can do this together. She smiled faintly. Yes. Together. They stepped into the fields, the crystal ground crunching beneath their feet. Almost immediately, the environment began to shift. The crystals seemed to move, forming new paths and closing old ones. Reflections danced around them, creating countless images of themselves. Some showed them falling into chasms. Some spoke with voices that mimicked friends and family. Stay close, Leora warned, taking his hand. Daniel gripped her hand tightly. The first illusion appeared as a deep canyon stretching endlessly before them. The wind howled through the crystal peaks, carrying whispers of doubt. You cannot do this. You are not strong enough. You will fail. Daniel's chest tightened. The fear was real, but he remembered Leora's words. Remember what you carry inside. He focused on her, on the bond they shared. Slowly, he took a step forward. The canyon seemed to shift, the illusion melting away as his courage held firm. Leora nodded, her eyes glowing with pride. Good. Keep moving. As they advanced, the terrain became more unpredictable. Crystals grew into towers and walls, forcing them to climb or navigate narrow ledges. At one point, a crystal bridge stretched across a bottomless void, swaying slightly with every step. Daniel's heart raced. One misstep could mean falling forever, or so the expanse wanted him to believe. Look at me, Leora said calmly. Focus on the path, not the fear. I am here. Daniel took a deep breath and trusted her guidance. Step by step, they crossed the bridge. His legs shook, his palms were sweaty, but he made it. The expanse had shown him fear, but it could not break his determination. Beyond the bridge, the illusions grew even more personal. Daniel saw visions of Earth under attack, humanity failing, friends disappointed in him. You are too far from your home. You cannot protect what you love. He staggered but held Leora's hand tighter. I may not be perfect, he said aloud, but I will always try. Fear does not define me. Hope does. and I carry it with me. The illusions dissolved, replaced by a calm valley filled with soft light. Daniel realized that the expanse had tested his ability to face both external dangers and internal doubt. Suddenly, a shadow moved ahead of them. The ground shook slightly as if the planet itself was alive. From between two towering crystals emerged a creature of light and energy, its form shifting and glowing. Its voice was like a chorus of wind and water. "To pass," it said, "you must show the true strength of humanity." Daniel's heart raced. He had hoped their journey would remain free of real danger, but he understood. The expanse demanded not just courage, but proof of what made humans special. Their heart. "What do we do?" he whispered to Leora. "You speak from your heart," she said. "Be honest. Be brave. Be human." Daniel stepped forward. "We come from a world still young in the stars," he said. "We are not perfect. We make mistakes. But we have love, loyalty, and hope. We protect each other even when it is difficult. We rise after failure. That is our strength. That is what I carry inside me, and what I will carry to the stars." The creature pulsed with light. Daniel's words resonated across the valley, pure and true. The energy surrounding them shimmered, then softened. The creature's form dissolved into the crystal air, leaving only calm silence behind. The final part of the journey was the most challenging. A labyrinth of crystal towers, stretched in every direction. Paths shifted constantly, and each turn seemed to lead them back to where they started. Leora stopped, her forehead creased in concentration. "This place responds to doubt," she said. "If you let fear control you, we will never leave." Daniel closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought of Leora's smile, her trust in him, and the promise they had shared. He thought of Earth, of people who believed in courage despite the odds. Step by step he followed his heart, trusting not only himself but the bond that connected him to Leora. Slowly, the labyrinth opened. A path of pure crystal led them to a plateau overlooking the valley. The twin moons hung low, casting their light across the land. Daniel could see Elisera in all its beauty. Forests, rivers, and glowing lakes stretching into the distance. Leora turned to him, eyes shining. "You have done it," she whispered. "You have proven your heart." Daniel exhaled, relief flooding through him. "We did it," he said. He looked at her, feeling a mix of pride and deep gratitude. "Together." She smiled and touched his cheek gently. "The council will see now that your bond is true. Not just words, not just wishes, but courage and heart. That is the proof of humanity they needed." When they returned to the valley, the council waited, silent and solemn. They had witnessed the expanse's trials from afar, and now they looked at Daniel with a mixture of awe and respect. The elder spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Human, you have faced the expanse and returned. You have shown courage, resilience, and love. You have carried the strength of your species within your heart. We acknowledge this bond." Leora stepped closer to Daniel, her hand brushing his. "It is done," she said softly. For the first time, Daniel felt the full weight of what they had accomplished. It was not just a personal victory, it was a symbol of humanity's potential. A young species proving it could meet the stars not only with technology, but with heart, courage, and connection. As the twin moons rose high in the sky, Daniel realized something incredible. Across the vast distances of space between worlds that were completely different, humanity's spirit could shine just as brightly. Leora smiled, her eyes reflecting the moons above. "You have proven that the heart can travel farther than any ship, Daniel. You have shown that love, courage, and hope are universal strengths." Daniel laughed softly, relief and happiness pouring out of him. "Then maybe our story is only beginning," she nodded, squeezing his hand. "Yes, this is only the first step. Together we can face anything the universe shows us." And in that moment, under the alien sky of Elisera, Daniel knew their bond was unbreakable. Not because of wishes or words alone, but because they had proven through action and heart that they were stronger together than apart. The valley was quiet as the twin moons rose high above Elezera. Daniel and Leora stood together, their hands still tightly clasped, feeling the calm after the trials they had faced. The journey through the expanse and the crystal fields had tested their courage, their hearts, and their trust in each other. Now they awaited the council's final decision. The elders approached, their robes shimmering in the moonlight. The atmosphere was solemn, yet filled with an unspoken respect. The council members had seen Daniel's determination, his resilience, and the strength of his bond with Leora. They had witnessed humanity's courage reflected in his heart. Dieter, eldest of the council, with silver hair flowing like water and eyes that seemed to see into every soul, spoke first. Daniel of Earth, Leora of Elizera, you have completed trials that few of our own have ever faced. You have proven courage, patience, and understanding. You have shown that love and trust can cross worlds. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He looked at Leora. Her eyes were bright with hope, yet she seemed nervous. He squeezed her hand. We did this together, he whispered. The elder continued, addressing the assembly of Elizerans. Let it be known that this bond is not only acknowledged but celebrated. A human and an Elizeran may unite by choice and respect. This day marks the beginning of a new era, one where two worlds may learn from each other, share together, and honor the courage of their hearts. A quiet cheer arose among some of the younger Elizerans while others nodded in approval. Daniel realized that his whispered wish had grown into something far greater than he had imagined. It was not just about him and Leora. It was about showing that humans, though young in the universe, could rise to meet challenges with integrity, courage, and love. After the council's announcement, Leora turned to Daniel. It is official, she said softly. They have accepted us. They have accepted you. Daniel smiled, his eyes misty. I never imagined it would come to this. But I'm glad it did. With you. She laughed lightly, a sound that sparkled like the crystal rivers they had explored together. You have carried the strength of humanity, and I have carried my trust in you. Together, we have shown the council that two worlds can meet not just with technology, but with heart. They walked together toward the edge of the valley, where the forest opened into a field of softly glowing flowers. The petals shimmered with pale light, reflecting the twin moons above. Leora stopped and turned to Daniel, her expression serious yet gentle. There is one final promise we must make, she said. It is not just for us, but for the worlds we represent. Will you make it with me? Daniel nodded eagerly. Yes, whatever it is. She extended her hands. Then let us promise to protect our bond, to honor our hearts, and to show that courage, hope, and love can bridge any distance between worlds. Daniel held her hands in his, feeling the warmth of her touch. I promise, he said. I will never stop learning, never stop trying, and never stop believing in what we share. Leora's eyes shone brightly. And I promise the same. They sealed their vow with a quiet, gentle smile. In that moment, they felt the weight of their journey lift. The fear, the doubts, the tests, they were all behind them now. What remained was trust, love, and the bond they had forged through courage and heart. Over the following days, Daniel and Leora began to explore Elizera more openly together. The council gave them permission to move freely between the valley and the city. Leora introduced him to her people, showing him their customs, their art, and their ways of life. At first, some Elizerans were hesitant. They had never seen a human up close, and Daniel's presence reminded them that the universe was bigger than they had imagined. But as they observed him, saw his honesty, his courage, and the respect he showed for their world, attitudes began to change. Daniel taught them about Earth, about humanity's struggles and triumphs. He shared stories of exploration, innovation, and kindness. Slowly, the Elizerans began to see humans not as young or reckless, but as beings with potential. capable of great courage and deep connection. And Leora remained by his side, guiding him, supporting him, and showing the rest of her people that their bond was strong and real. One evening, under the twin moons, Daniel and Leora returned to the glowing lake where they had first truly shared their hearts. The water shimmered softly, reflecting their faces. "I can hardly believe we are here," Daniel said, looking at her. "All of this, it feels like a dream." Leora smiled. "It is not a dream. It is the result of courage, trust, and the choices we made. You proved that humanity's heart is strong enough to reach across worlds." Daniel's heart swelled. He remembered the first night he whispered his wish, unsure if it would ever be heard. Now the wish had become reality, not just a private hope, but a promise recognized by two worlds. I wish this could last forever," he whispered. Leora laughed softly, the sound like wind through crystal leaves. "Then it shall," she said. "We have proven what is possible, and now we will continue together." They sat together by the lake, hand in hand, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments of wonder. Daniel realized that the universe was not just a place of stars and planets, but a place where hearts could find each other, no matter how far apart the worlds might be. News of their bond spread across Elisera. Many began to celebrate, others observed quietly, and some young Eliserans even traveled to Earth to learn more about humanity. Daniel and Leora became a symbol, a proof that even the youngest species in the galaxy could rise to meet challenges, and that love, courage, and hope were universal forces stronger than fear. Daniel found himself teaching Eliserans about human songs, showing them Earth's art and stories. Leora, in turn, shared her people's knowledge of the stars, their science, and the beauty of Elisera's world. Together, they built bridges, not just between themselves, but between two civilizations. Through it all, Daniel never forgot the moment when he first whispered his wish. It had seemed small, almost meaningless, but it had been heard, and Leora's answer had changed everything. As time passed, Daniel and Leora's bond grew even deeper. They explored every part of Elisera together, learning from its mysteries, sharing laughter, and dreaming of a future where humans and Eliserans could walk side by side. One quiet night, under a sky filled with stars, Daniel looked at Leora and whispered again softly, as if speaking to the universe itself, "I am glad I found you." She turned to him, her eyes shining like twin moons. "And I am glad I found you," she replied. Then, with a smile full of warmth and certainty, she said words that would stay with him forever. "Then you shall." In that moment, Daniel understood fully what she meant. Across worlds, across differences, and through trials of heart and spirit, they had found each other. Their bond was not just a wish, not just a promise. It was proof that humanity, with its courage, love, and hope, could shine among the stars. And under the glowing moons of Elisera, Daniel and Leora began a new chapter of their lives, together. They walked forward hand in hand, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, their hearts would always guide them. The story of their bond spread not just through Elisera, but eventually to Earth as well. It became a symbol of what was possible when courage met love, when hearts opened to each other, and when humans reached beyond their own world, not just with machines or technology, but with the enduring strength of spirit. And so the first bridge between two worlds was built, not of metal or crystal, but of trust, understanding, and the unwavering courage of the human heart.